Well, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Flight Deck to Sim live stream. Today it's the 28th of March 2023, 44 minutes past 6. No, 4. I'm all over the place already. Here in the UK, we're going to be in X-Plane 12 to start with, then jumping into Microsoft Flight Simulator, ZIBO MOD 737, PMDG 737, something a little bit different. We're going to be doing 2 engine failure after takeoff scenarios. I've recently done my recurrency sim. I'm pleased to announce I've passed. Haven't failed one yet, touch wood, and it's all fresh in my mind. So I was actually planning on doing a full recreation of the check in the ZIBO Mod 737. Well, not exactly as it was, but look at things like the circle to land, Cat 3 operations and failures associated with that, and the engine failure drill. But the mod struggled with a number of elements of that. One of the elements worked quite well though, was the engine failure after takeoff. I've done it in both the mod and the PMDG 737. Both have advantages, both had disadvantages. They're not perfect, nowhere, in some cases nowhere near the real thing, but both of them have a sort of a good replication of what the real aircraft would do. So I thought I'd compare the two, see how they are, and I know it's something a little bit different as well. I've got a tutorial on it, but I've never done it live, so it'll be really interesting with how it goes. To sort of replicate this, we're going to do everything as realistically as possible. We've set up a scenario flying from Stansted to Amsterdam. In the PMDG 737, I've saved a panel state, so after this I can literally load up on the runway, load the panel state. It'll be exactly the same as it is in the ZIBO mod. Same gross weight, same performance figures, full 22k, same speeds, live weather for both of them, so it'll be a very accurate between the two with regards to, well, very similar between the two. Everything will be exactly the same. Now the aircraft is ready to go. We just need to request push and start, completely full setup. We'll talk about the drill whilst we're taxiing out as well, and we'll also see who is in chat today. So yeah, this is default Stansted with Author for Explain X-Plane 12. My Jones is here, so many puddles out there. Let me guess the sim. Brilliant. Yes, X-Plane 12, as I mentioned, puddles galore. Where's Will? 2 engine failures on the same day. Pretty unlucky. Yeah, I know. Didn't obviously touch with these pilots. What else we got here? Endo Shadow wants a dual engine failure at the end. We'll see, time permitting, but certainly not at the start. That would cause issues for the rest of the streams there. Christian Nichols here, Liam Barwick 2. Let me zoom on in towards the aircraft. As I said, we've got angry pushback tug driver already connected, ready to go. Aircraft is ready for push and start and all loaded there. Serving toast marshmallows on this flight. Indeed, Brendan, you think you should boga the ZIBO? Again, we won't have time for both here. Well, it will be quite a quick stream because each drill and procedure probably only takes about 30 to 45 minutes, so by the time I've loaded up the other sim, it'll probably be an hour and a half-ish total length. We'll have to see if we have any problems. Miranda's looking forward to the stream as well. Luke is exactly that guy. Yes, tell me where you want to go. Brilliant. Good luck, don't crash. Thank you very much, Carl. And yeah, there are issues with both aircraft, but I'm going to be doing my absolute best to replicate them accurately today. Anyway, you can hear the tug is roaring to go. Jump on into the cockpit. There we are. So as I said, aircraft's all set up, ready to go. Now, just before we go, I'm going to brief the emergency part of the brief, which sort of explains what we do in the event of an engine failure, and also the routing too. So if I quickly grab the operational flight plan. So we're all set up from Stansted to Schiphol. We're live time, live weather. It's a bit gloomy, but there's nothing that's going to cause us to want to load additional fuel. So it's only 4 tons of fuel required. You can see I've loaded 4.1. It's 4 tons in the PMDG 737 as well. So standard fuel for this sector. We're taking off from runway 22. It's a Clacton 1 Echo departure, so it's an RNAV sit, just a left turn after Sierra Sierra Whiskey 01 inbound to Clacton. It's all set up for that. And then our stand, we're right on here on Apron Echo, right at the top here. We're going to push back onto the one of the lines. I can't remember which one I selected. Taxi via Sierra for runway 22. The performance is in 22k departure, but as you well know, something's going to go wrong today, and the PMDG 737 has, I think, a better failure modelling system. The ZIBO mods has quite a number of features which I actually didn't realise how many more had been added. There's quite a few here. What I do like though, had the options for different failures at V2 for the engine fire. The reason the PMDG 737, the engine fire you can only select on. So what we're going to do, we're going to combine severe damage with a fire. So you can see me do the fire drill. You're going to love this because this is going to be extremely difficult. I've got to do the most important thing, fly the airplane, but also this is a critical situation. I've got to get this engine fire extinguished as soon as we're above 400 feet. So I'm going to have to try and hand fly and deal with the memory items associated with this drill. Now, why have I selected V2? There is the option to select V1. However, the ZIBO mod seems to engage the failure about 5 knots below V1, and obviously below V1 we'd stop for an engine fire, severe damage or failure of any sort. So selecting V2, I've not tested it, I'm hoping it will happen around V1. We'll see what happens. If it happens before V1, I've got to stop, but maybe for the purposes of this sim I'm going to fight the instinct and just carry on. But we'd never continue below V1 for an engine fire or failure. Engine separation on, we could do that, but actually engine separation is extremely unlikely, and also it's easier to deal with from a handling perspective, but I don't want any of the associated complications associated with engine separations and linking fuel, hydraulics, electric issues. I'm sure you guys would like to see, but we'll just do well, I say it's simple, we'll have a fire and it's severe damage and see how we get on. You've got it, Brendan, that's it. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Right, so I'm not on VATSIM. I'll imagine we've got our push and start clearance. I'm just actually, of course we've got yoke cam on as well, so you can see what inputs I'm making of the control column, and I'll talk about the engine failure drill as we taxi out to runway 22. In fact, I'm just going to move my thrust levers slightly. They're a little bit too close to my yoke, so sort of like trying to fly with my hands crossed. I've just moved it across slightly. I hope you guys can still see that. Yeah, you see I've moved it a little bit further over there, so that should actually give you a bit of picture of what's going on. Right, so below the line, packs off, anti-collision lights on, parking brake, quick and now release, transponder out, off, checks complete, hopefully it'll push back.
Starting pushback, and you may start engine.
There we are, so angry, what's his name? Brian, we call him. Angry Brian is pushing us back straight away. Not on VATSIM, I want to hear the Mayday call on Unicom. Maybe if I can get a controller to provide some ATC, we can potentially look at a flight on VATSIM doing this there. Have you ever flown a ZIBO glider, double engine separation? I haven't, no. Yeah, probably is quite good performance. Right, let's grab the taxi chart. Of course, we'd be completely unaware anything is wrong with the aircraft at this stage, otherwise we wouldn't be going anywhere. We'll start engine number 2. Someone's getting the weather for Schiphol. We won't be going as far as there, but if you know, Stansted was, we couldn't actually return to Stansted, that could be a viable option, actually continuing if it's your takeoff alternate. N2, N1, oil pressure, fuel's coming in. Oh yes, I've gone for the flight deck to sim livery today. Yes, not even alpaca, even though our call sign is alpaca 01. Absolutely, Brendan. No, I will be sort of simulating all the communication. I'll be explaining what I'd be requesting. Guys, don't worry, I'll be working hard, but I'll be talking you through exactly what I'd be telling a student when I was an SFI when we did engine fire failure drills. And in the simulator, we do it in what we call a loft environment, which stands for line-orientated flight training. So we don't just do it, you know, we sort of simulate having to talk to the cabin crew, real-world procedures, talking with ATC. We'll do some decision-making as well. What would actually be the best option after the engine failure? What would be the best option to do? Right, starting engine number 1.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Disconnecting tow.
No double engine
by.
failures after takeoff. it's all you got to do is point the nose down, pray. That's pretty much it. Oh dear. So many alpaca aircraft failures recently. Yes, of course, our last stream was a failure stream. I need to go back to some normal ops. N2, oil pressure, N1, max motoring there. Guys, don't know if you know already, I will be doing Cross the Pond on Saturday. I've penciled it into my diary. And I've been given free rein for the day to stream it. We're taking the Rotate MD11. I've got in contact with Rotate. I will be purchasing a copy, or a $100 X-Plane gift card, but not only that, Rotate have given me a copy to give away as well. I've just read their email just before the stream. I need to get back to them. So 2 copies of the MD11 to give away.
Disconnected and bypass pin
Quizzes,
has been removed. Hand signal on the
other
left.
giveaways
We'll
too.
see you next time and have a safe flight.
So be sure to tune in on Saturday, starting at 11:30. I'll be providing more information about the stream. It just is up already with some basic information, but yes, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a long old stream, that one. in an aircraft, which I'm not familiar with, but I can get from A to B, and follow ATC instructions. Right, cross the pond with max failures. No. Right, tug is there. Bypass pin is seen. I do love these rain effects. Look, you can even see Jimothy's reflection there, or Brian we call him, don't we? Right, before taxi flow, generators on, APU's off, start switches continuous, propeller's on, we'll have wing engine anti-ice on for departure. Packs auto, isolation valve auto, AP bleed is off, flaps to 5, flight controls, so full forward, full back, sorry, I have not got a Yokoham on. Full left centre, full right centre, and we can now do that. I'll hide you lot as well. Blank the lower DU, and then we'd read the before taxi checklist, which I can actually do. Oh no, I forgot to run the checklist. Well, that won't work with regards to the engine failure. Anyway, let's now taxi out to runway 22. Lights are on, and config. There's no takeoff config warning. And nice spool up to 30%. So, we're taxiing out to runway 22. Make a left turn here on Echo Hotel, and we'll go via Sierra. And when we jump into the PMDG 737, it's up to you. I can start on the exact same stand or start on the runway. It doesn't make any difference. It'd be a waste of time, I think, briefing everything again. So I'll probably just start on the runway. Right, so wing anti-ice on. Why is that? I thought that was quite rare. So whenever we use engine anti-ice for departure, if it's raining, I think it was a bit of drizzle at the start of the stream, and it's below 10 degrees, we typically turn on engine and wing anti-ice, and in the OPT we use engine anti-ice for performance reasons. We only select wing anti-ice if we expect to use it, but yeah, it's below 10 degrees, raining, we'd use wing and engine anti-ice. If it was just standing in water, we probably wouldn't bother with wing. Is it time to move seats? Got a bad feeling about this flight. What are you on about? Nothing wrong at all. Right, so let's talk about engine failure after takeoff. This is a very demanding situation. It's not an Airbus. This is a stick and rudder plane. You have to put in rudder instinctively when the engine loses power. It's a big Seneca. Okay, if you don't, you're off the edge of the runway, and there's so much yaw from the asymmetrical thrust. If you don't apply the rudder, the airplane's going to roll very aggressively too, but you'll be off the end of the runway before you do that. So you've got to feed in that rudder, dead leg, dead engine. Remember that saying with multi-engined aircraft: apply the rudder and just keep the wings level when you're going down the runway after V1. It's so important in the 737, and that's why the rudder is so huge. It's such a powerful tool, and it has to be, because it's designed to, in this situation, in event of an engine failure at low speeds, it has to counteract any asymmetry, which is why it's so important to reject below V1. If you carry on below V1 and try and take off, there might not be enough rudder authority to maintain directional control. So above V1, there will be, because you've performed the calculations for takeoff, there will be sufficient rudder for departure. So what's going to happen? We're going to have an engine failure and fire at some point during the rotation at V2. Immediately control the aircraft, so apply rudder. I think with severe damage, it doesn't just go straight to zero. It sort of simulates a few surges, and then it completely fails. So maintain direction and control. We don't do anything, guys, until we get to 400 feet. We just fly the airplane, raise the gear, fly the airplane until we get to 400 feet. Nothing else. No drills, no checks. Aviate. Fly the airplane, get away from the ground. When we're at 400 feet, we can start thinking about, right, let's deal with this situation. Pilot flying will ask pilot monitoring, what's the issue? And he'll start diagnosing the failure. What's gone on? Is it a fire? Is it a failure? Is it severe damage? Has the engine flamed out? Is it surging? Is it stalling? There's different checklists for different scenarios, you see. So you need to make sure you apply the appropriate checklist, if applicable, or certainly memory items at that stage. If there's no memory items, we do nothing until we're at the MSA and, you know, autopilot's in, workload's lower. We'll deal with the drill. This height is extremely important, this one here. You've all seen me set the MFRA. This is the height, in the event of an engine failure, we accelerate at, because at the moment we'll be maintaining V2 to V2 plus 20 until we get to this height. Once we get to that height, we accelerate the aircraft to the upspeed, and the aircraft will fly a level segment to accelerate. We have very little performance. and then we continue runway heading, and we'll climb to the MSA 3,000 feet. In fact, we might as well go to 4,000 feet. It's a sensible height. It's the sit-stop altitude, but if you're lacking performance, you could go to the MSA, which would be 3,000 feet here in this stage. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. If you're on your type rating, I'll do my best to replicate real-world procedures, but I'm single pilot. The simulators are not perfect. I'll point out as many differences, but don't be using this for your guidance here. This is just for a bit of fun, usual disclaimer. Right, I'll answer some questions. I can see a lot of questions coming in here. I'll just get to Sierra 1. Before we get going, I'll answer some questions as well. There we are. Just turn the sim up slightly as well. I've said the mod had a few issues when I tested this earlier, so at least I know what's coming. But I will do a fair comparison between this and the PMDG 7.3. There's pros and cons with both. Right, let's just bring it to a stop there. Set the parking brake. We'll head on outside. I'll just turn the volume down here, so I'll answer some questions in chat. Piano, what's the biggest difference you've seen between V1 and VR? Where was it? Typically when it's wet or contaminated. If the runway's contaminated, you need more distance to stop, so I took off once on a contaminated runway and there was around a 15 knot difference, so larger aircraft typically have a larger gap, but on the 7.3 Airbus, sort of this size aircraft, typically they're around the same speed on a dry runway. What is an engine separation actually? What were you talking about earlier? Christian, it's literally as it said, the engine falls off the aeroplane. You lose the engine, but that's it. So dealing with any asymmetrical yaw is actually better because you've got this lump of metal that doesn't produce thrust missing, so it's actually easier to handle with. Very unlikely to happen though. The slots are booked up for across the pond. Yep, they are all pretty much fully booked now, but I'm sure some more will pop up as people can't actually take part, so make sure you keep an eye on that. What's the issue? My hair's on fire, said Peter Green. Brilliant. Is the engine failure after V1? Yes, if you set it to V1 in the mod, it seems to activate at below V1 by about 5 knots, forcing me to do an RTO, so I've set it to V2, hopefully it'll be around V1, but we'll see. To be fair, the Airbus also needs your input on the engine failure after takeoff, does it? I thought it did it automatically. Fancy pants machine. It does things easier, I know that's for sure. Does the fact that the engines are designed to fall off install confidence in the passengers? Are they designed to fall off? I hope not. I think if there's a hit by something large, maybe. I don't know. When V1 equals VR, when should we reject takeoff? Doesn't matter if they're the same flag, just look at V1. V1 is the decision speed, the go, no-go speed. So if you're above V1, you continue. If you're below V1, you stop. Doesn't matter what VR is, even if it's the same. I think we've pretty much covered the most common questions there. I think we're all ready to go as well. So I imagine we've got our takeoff clearance. Oh, it's just started raining. Wonderful. So I'll pop those on. Strobes can come on as well. Transponders, TARA, weather radars on. Auto throttle and LNAV. There we are. So, imagine we can clear the takeoff. What's the wind here in Stansted? Let's have a look here. It's not too bad. It's 17013, drizzle, scattered at 3000, 7 degrees. QNH is now 1015, which is now set. What if the call is just before V1? Surely you'll accelerate through V1 before actually starting to decelerate. Yeah, you're getting into sort of, you know, you got to make that decision quickly, but around that speed, I'd be more inclined to be going. You know, if it's 2 or 3 knots before it, by the time you've actually said it, you're at V1. You know, you can debate that all day long. But you're very go-minded approaching V1. Very go-minded. Why is wing anti-ice flashing? That's normal. That's when the amount of thrust changes and the valves modulating. Right, we're all lined up. Wish me luck. Hopefully it's all going to work correctly. I've not tested a V2 failure, so I'll just have the page open just to make sure. Oh no, don't press that. So at V2. Right, Togas and chats. Let's see what happens here. 40%. Sim looks great. Yeah, I've got to say the sim looks better. Oh, running the latest versions of the mod at PMDG. Everything's the most latest version. Right, there we are. Stabilised. Set takeoff thrust. 90.6. Mid interesting to compare all these figures when we get to the PMDG later. There we are, take our thrust sets, indications are normal.
80 knots.
Checked, release forward pressure. We're going.
Rotate.
Okay, up we go. There we are, engine fire. Keep going. And the engine's surging as well. Cancel the warning, positive rate of climb. Gears coming up. Well, that's interesting. I've got a surge, not a failure there, but the fire will take priority. So I'm putting a little bit of left rudder in now just to maintain the pressure. So heading select. Oh dear. That is surging all over. Right, state malfunction, Jim. That when it surges, it's very difficult to control because the thrust is constantly changing. So I've got left rudder in here. So Jim would be doing his memory items. So auto throttle if engaged, disengaged. Thrust lever engine number 2 confirmed close. We had the fire. He'd say state malfunction. The fire bell's on. Oh, we've lost the IDG and it has now completely failed. So close, bug up. And the mod's doing a fantastic job here. Lowering the nose. Engine start lever engine number 2 confirmed cut off. And engine fire switch engine number 2 confirmed pull. It's on fire, so rotate. And what the flight director does now, flaps 1, it commands an almost level segment, so it's sort of a little bit too high at the moment. We don't touch thrust on the operative engine. We've done the performance to ensure that there's sufficient thrust on takeoff. And the flight directors are actually doing a really good job now, so they're commanding us almost level segment, slight climb, flaps up. The key at this phase here is to accelerate the aircraft to the upspeed. I should have started a timer, but look, that looks like the fire's extinguished and the bottle has discharged. So we're just going to continue, and we'd be doing a mayday call as well. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Alpaca 01, engine filer, maintaining runway heading, and we're climbing. Flaps up. Oh, they are going up. Climbing up to 4,000 feet. Now, look at this. This is a big plus over the ZIBO, over the PMDG, because we've lost engine number 2. The engine-driven pump is inoperative, so the electric hydraulic pump is having to retract the flaps, and it's a lot slower. That is not modelled in the PMDG, so there we are, it's a lot slower. Flaps up, no lights. I've still got that right rudder in, so just get this in trim. The trim in this is wonderful. Right, I'll get the rudder in so we can now engage the autopilot. This is not the correct order, so we now go level change, max continuous thrust, 98.1, we're going to set that on the operative engine. And we continue climbing at the upspeed, which is sort of the best speed to climb out single engine. So there we are. 1 to go. And look how much performance is available. Such a powerful aeroplane. Once you've got max continuous thrust set, we're still able to climb at 2,000 feet per minute. That is pretty accurate at this gross weight. It's phenomenal, the mod. Really, really good. I was having issues with the automation earlier. We'll see how it gets on. But this whole process so far is excellent. Really, really good. Graphics look good as well, don't they? There we are, single engine. Climbing up to the MSA. Well, we could have stopped at 3,000, but this'll do. So out of quiet, we will bug 220 knots. I've left the rudder in the real aircraft it's quite heavy, but in this it's really easy. And the magic number 70%, guys. Now as you reduce the thrust, reduce a little bit of rudder input. Whoa, it's a bit sensitive. It's quite difficult in this sim. And single engine, this is perfect. Pitch power is spot on. 72%, 220 knots. And before we do anything, I want to put this trim in. So I've got left rudder in here. Whoa, that is not realistic though. The rudder trim is way too fast. And now, guys, look, just to show you, my feet are off the rudder. My feet are off the rudder. Look at the control column. It needs to be roughly centre. So you see how it's just making small inputs there, but I'd say that's roughly centred. My feet are not on the rudders. Look, I'm wiggling my feet, and it's perfectly in trim, maintaining 220 knots, 72%. And we've done the memory items. And now we need to talk to ATC and request something. So look, we're just going in a runway heading. We're above the MSA, above the terrain. So would be something like you need to be familiar with your area. So I know Stansted. I know London quite well. To the Stansted, there's a hold called Abbott, not too far away. So what I'm going to do is type in Abbott. So Mayday Alpaca 01, we've completed the initial drills. We'd like to hold at Abbott or request delayed vectors, stand by for intentions. So we'll go Abbott, LNAV's available. Now, the ZIBO mod really struggled single engine with the autopilot to fly this aircraft. Not only this, both this and the PMDG 737 really struggled single engine to fly this. Once the aircraft's in trim, single engine, it actually handles really nicely. You don't need to make any inputs on the rudder. It just flies as it would with 2 engines. But actually, it seems to be doing this quite well. So I'm just going to redirect to Abbott again. And what I'll do is quickly, I can't see my iPad, bring up the ILS charts, the 2.2, and we haven't decided if we're going to go to back to Stansted yet, but I'm just going to select ILS 2.2. Oh, it doesn't have Abbott here. Well, you have to take my word for it. The hold at Abbott's 265 right-hand turns. Hold Abbott 265 right-hand turns. Oh, it's already coded, and it's 6 mile legs. It's already coded correctly because it has the correct database. Execute. And actually, the autopilot is doing a really good job flying the airplane. Just to show you, look, I'm not making any inputs. Just make sure it goes wings level. 70 to 75%, holding around 220 knots really nicely. We would have already started the checks by now. I'm going to start the engine fire severe damage separation checklist just to get the aircraft configured correctly to make sure we don't get any significant balance, because look, we're only using fuel from tank number 1 at the moment. And well done, ZIBO. Look how well it's actually flying single engine here, and you can see, look, I've got to hold in an Abbott, ignore the rest of the routing for now, and then we need to complete this checklist here. Now, look, I'm no hands, I saw that. I'm just going to complete the checklist. I'm reading this from my operator's QRH, and then we'll discuss and answer any questions. So, auto throttle if engaged, disengaged. This is just going over the memory items to make sure I've not forgotten anything. Thrust number 2 closed. Engine start lever confirmed cut off. Engine fire switch confirmed pull. Rotate and discharge if the engine fire switch was illuminated, which we did because it was in flight. We rotate the bottle, which we've done. Step 8 of the checklist is if there's high airframe vibration or if there's no high frame air vibration. So if there's vibration from the damage, we reduce airspeed, descend to a safe altitude, and try and reduce the vibration. But there seems to be no vibration. The engine caught fire, shut down, there's no vibration. So we'll configure the air conditioning panel. We close the isolation valve and turn off the pack switch on the affected side, which is the right pack. What that does, the left pack goes into high flow with the flaps up to ensure there's sufficient pressurization. APU bleed verify off. APU is available for start. APU is not available. It is. So we'll now start the APU. And what we do, we take this time to contact ATC. We might get the weather for Stansted. Is the airport still open? Is there damage? Is there debris? It's just like a little bit of a breather just to whilst we wait for the APU to start to sort of see if there's any information we can gather. We can perhaps talk to the cabin crew. Is there anything unusual in the cabin? Oh yes, half the wing's missing. Oh, that's quite useful. Later on, though, we do a PA to explain what's going on, but we just use that time whilst we wait for the APU to start to just sort of build and gather some information. Uros says, at what point would you brief the folks in the back in real life? I'll come to that. The priority at the moment is securing the aircraft. APU's almost there. There, so APU is available to start. Make sure you're on the left autopilot. If you're on the right one, it will disconnect it. So APU's now on the bus. We now have 2 sources of AC power instead of 1. And this is really important here. You guys now need to do in chat some active pilot monitoring for me, okay? With no fuel in the centre tank, fuel quantity on the operative engine side should be less than quantity on the failed side. If not, suspect a fuel leak, don't balance fuel. Otherwise, we need to balance the fuel, because at the moment, engine number 1 is only taking fuel from tank number 1, and if we leave it like this, we'll be unable to use this 2 tons of fuel. So to balance the fuel, what we need to do is open the crossfeed valve. Be very careful doing this, make sure we get the correct lights. So bright, dim, and we turn the low side pumps off. So left side pumps off. We're going to get master caution fuel associated. And what's happening now is engine number 1 is only taking fuel from the right tank, okay? And we need to keep this configuration until we have 1.57 tons in the right tank. you guys, because I'm single pilot, need to do some active pilot monitoring for me. When we get to 1.57, come back to me in chat and say, Flight Deck Sim, you need to balance the fuel or reconfigure the fuel panel, otherwise we'll just keep using fuel from the right tank only. So that's your job, guys, for the next 15 minutes. So we put the transponder mode selected to TA. That's to avoid any climb commands, because obviously if we get a climb now, we might not have sufficient performance to be able to do that. We can now put the isolation valve switch in auto. You can see how the duct pressure is now increased. Now we have sufficient bleed air if we need to use wing anti-ice, and then it says plan to land at the nearest suitable airport and go to the one engine operative landing checklist, and that's the end of the drill. The aircraft's now configured for single engine flight, ensuring that if we need wing anti-ice, it's configured. We're balancing the fuel. Anyone know what comes next? Before we do the one engine operative landing checklist, we need to do two things. The one engine operative landing checklist presumes that you know where you're going. I've sort of given away the situation there. But we'll get into the hold at Abbott. We've got two things we need to do. Yep, that's one thing, PA. That sort of comes into the whole process. Pray, says Cole, another one. Quick bathroom run. Any serious answers there? Umar, that comes later. Meal service. Oh, you lot are just unbelievable. So we've got to do the after takeoff checklist first. So after takeoff checklist. Leave the engine anti-ice on because it's this is 8 degrees and raining. Air conditioning and pressurisation. We're pressurised and set. And we've got the QNH maintaining 4,000 feet. Getting there, some good suggestions. So it would advise AT. So Mayday Alpaca 01. We're entering the hold at Abbott's. We're just running some checklists. Stand by for intentions. We've got 3.4 tons. We're burning 1.6 an hour. We'll call that 2 tons conservatively. So we've got an endurance of about an hour and 30 minutes until the engines flame out. So we've got a bit of time. Engine failures are incredibly rare. The chance of having 2 lottery winning odds. Of course, we're aware of the Hudson River and things like that. It could happen, but you don't want to rush. You want to get on the ground. We've got to land at the nearest suitable airport. We don't want to rush because you'll make mistakes in this non-normal situation. So we've done the after takeoff checklist. We now need to go for a decision-making process. So there's loads out there available. Dodar, my operator, uses a specific one as well. But essentially, what we're trying to do with the decision-making process is to work out where are we going to do a single-engine flat 15 landing, which is what we need to do. And we look at all the information. So we've just taken off from Stansted. Let's imagine it's a base for us. It's a nice long runway. But maybe we've just taken off and it's LVPs. We can't do a single engine approach and do an auto land in the 737 my operator. So we might have to go somewhere else. We'd have a takeoff alternate perhaps. So we might be having to start routing there. We might have to climb up to our cruising level single engine to save fuel. But looking at Stansted, it's suitable. We'll select that as an option. Then we'd advise everyone. So we'll tell ATC, okay, Alpaca 01, we'd like to return to Stansted, but we'd like to continue holding at Abbott. We'll be ready for the approach in 10 minutes. We then do a cabin crew briefing. Now, anyone in chat know the aviation format for briefing the cabin crew of a non-normal situation? It's sort of industry standard. Anyone in chat know what that is? Our start switch is in continuous as part of the procedure. Yes, we've got engine anti-ice on at the moment. Do skip the meal, unbelievable. You've got it, guys. Joshua, Sid Meg Studios, Lewis, NITS briefing. It's the NITS briefing. So I'll imagine I'm giving the cabin crew a NITS briefing now. So I'll call them to the flight deck. Okay, this is the captain. Please, this is NITS briefing. Please listen carefully. So nature is we've had an engine failure. Intentions to return to Stansted. Landing in 15 minutes. No special instructions, and my operator would say no SOS demo required. An SOS demo is when we're likely to evacuate after landing, which we shouldn't need to with this. They read it back, and then lastly, we need to do a PA. So, you can't mess around with PA. If you've had a large fire, a large bang, they're going to obviously know something serious has happened, but we try to use or avoid using alarming words like fire, danger, pray. Who's talking to me? Oh, it's X-Plane. So, you know, I'd say, ladies and gentlemen from the fly deck, this is your captain speaking. Unfortunately, you might have heard a loud bang, and we are dealing with that issue at the moment. Just to reassure you, everything's completely under control, and our intention is to return to Stansted. We'll be landing in 15 minutes, and as soon as we've landed, we'll have the aircraft inspected, and we'll then return to stand, and we'll organise onward travel arrangements. Thank you very much for your patience. Now, just want to monitor the ZIBO mod here. Where are we going, ZIBO? We seem to be in the hold at Abbott, but continuing easterly. So there's a few little bugs. Why are we not turning? It's not reassuring. We'll just give it another 30 seconds, otherwise I might just have to go heading. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. There's bugs and issues in the mod at the moment. It should be turning left now. Entering the hold at Abbott. So that's it. We've done everything. No LNAV. LNAV is engaged, but it's definitely not turning. So what we're going to do, we're going to hold manually. So I'm just going to give myself a delayed vector. We'll make a left turn here. 260. So if it turns here. Okay, it's turning. That's good. Keep an eye on that fuel, guys. It's your responsibility here. So we've done that, the aircraft's secure. We're now going to do the one engine operative landing checklist. So that says plan a flat 15 landing. So in the FMS, we've got all this information to get us still to Schiphol. So we'll set 4,000 feet here. And the elevation for Stansted, 350 feet as well. Flat 15 landing as well. So we're going to go to departure arrivals, ILS 22, execute. And our noble cruise altitude is exactly what the real aircraft would say at this stage. Go direct to the centre fix. We'll now put up in 4,000 feet at the cruise altitude. Execute. And I've just tidied up the MCP here. Why is that not holding at Abbott? Such a shame. And there should be a magenta. Oh, there is. There is a magenta line. We'll keep an eye on this there. So what I'm going to do is just... No, we shouldn't be able to do it anyway. It's a bit buggy, guys. I'm just going to have to do delayed vectors and heading select. So the autopilot seems to be handling, though, the aircraft quite well. Just adding a little bit of thrust. So during the turn that we lose a bit of speed. So you've got to keep an eye on that. Make sure you add thrust, which is why we bug a few knots extra. So ensure there's a bit more of a margin. There we are. Can we have a meal service, please? Unbelievable. So the aircraft's now secure. We'll do the one engine operative landing checklist. Plan a flat 15 landing. We'll put VRF ice now. So a single engine, guys, we fly flat 15. Flat 15 speeds. And what we need to do is set something called VRF ice. So if you're expecting icing, or the use of engine anti-ice or wing anti-ice, we add 10 knots to the approach speed just for an additional safety factor. So we just simply put /164. So that's our new approach speed. So we set VRF ice. We check the performance figures, single engine, flat 15, to make sure we can land. We would have more than sufficient runway length in Stansted. So I'll just set order brake 3 for flat 15. Talks about when we fly the approach, we'll fly at VRF ice plus wind additive, and we only need when engine anti-ice on the operative engine, so we can turn it off. And we leave the start switches in continuous on the dead engine because that ensures the EEC is energized, otherwise you start getting some nuisance warnings popping up there. That's it. Checklist is complete except just some deferred items, but now we just need to set up for the ILS, so we'd hand over control, fixings runway 22, 10 and 4. Frequencies are set for the ILS, 110.5. Courses are set for the ILS. Minimums for the ILS, we'll just check here. 548. 548. And we can just reduce a little bit of thrust now because we're back to 220 knots level flight. 548 is now set. Fuel's not going to be too long until we need to reconfigure the fuel. There we are. So we'll talk about the configuration for a single engine approach shortly, but we're all set up for the approach. Frequencies, courses, minimums. We then brief it, hand back control, and we just need to do the descent checks, which is pretty much the same. We brief the approach. We then configure the aircraft for additional ground thrust. So if we don't anticipate the use of wing engine anti-ice, wing anti-ice, and we configure the aircraft for a no engine bleed landing. It just provides more thrust in the event of a go around. So we close the isolation valve, turn off bleed 1 air switch, turn on the APU bleed, and then APU bleed off as well. And now the APU is pressurising the aircraft via the left pack, and neither engine's providing bleed air, so we have a little bit more go around thrust available. Now if I have to go around single engine, it's a normal go around procedure, except we use flap 1, and my goodness guys, you have to feed in so much rudder. You know, almost full rudder, even with the rudder trim in already. If you don't do that, you're going to flip the aeroplane upside down if you make no aileron input. So use flap 1, you smoothly add thrust and feed in the rudder as well. Limit the bank angle to 15 degrees when we're below VRF ice, and then we accelerate to the flap 1 manoeuvring speed. We then do the approach checklist, which you'll imagine is done. We've got the idents, the fixed rings are all in, etc, etc, and lastly the flap inhibit switch to flap inhibit. Now we're ready for the approach, guys, so that's it. Now what I'm going to do is just do a turn to the left 180 degrees, we'll then descend to 2,500 feet, and then we'll position for the approach. And that just gives me an opportunity to I say do a flip, just gives the opportunity to ask some questions here. Why is the left fuel still slowly decreasing? It shouldn't be. Maybe with the aircraft turning, but how much does it decrease by? But yeah, very good. You guys have spotted it. Look, we've only got a difference now of 20 kilos. Well done, guys. We'll pop the pumps on, and we leave the crossfeed valve open. And you just then have to keep an eye on it. Certain pumps have different output pressures, so there could be a difference over time between them again, so just keep an eye on it. But at the moment, number 1 engine is taking fuel from both tanks. 0.02, oh, that's okay. Right, let's have a look at who else has had any questions. Welcome on board, Farmer Matt. Hope you're doing very well, glad you're enjoying the content. You get invited to our members only Discord, and I hope you enjoy using the custom emojis in chat. Thank you very much. Right, engine 2 start switch on continuous. Would you not turn this off? No, Dave Kemp, because you de-energise the EEC, and then you start getting really weird warnings. Speed limit flags come up, you lose information there, so we leave it on even though the engine is off. Good question though. Perfect fuel level. Is it normal fuel is being depleted slowly from the left side? Well noted, guys, but no, it shouldn't be. I should think that was probably a little ZIBOism, but we should be no fuel coming from that tank. Maybe we have a small leak. Kit Kat, what did you ask? Oh, you could manually fly it like the type rating. Yeah, so on the type rating and your skills test and your LPC, you have to hand fly the single engine ILS. In real life, we'd utilise the autopilot. What we'll do, guys, we're going to do a single engine ILS to a go around, reposition for another one, and one of them I'll hand fly. I'll do the first one with the autopilot, and the second one I'll hand fly to a landing. There we are. I think we pretty much answered all the questions. Ah, there we go. Thank you. Oh. Someone's got their head turned on. SK Son is the APU is drawing from the left. Correct. That's why. Why I couldn't even think of that, I don't know. But you're absolutely correct. Even I'm trying to think. Yeah, it wouldn't make any difference in the fuel pumps. The APU is feeding fuel from the left tank, so they would slowly be decreasing. Well done, SK Son. Yeah, I knew someone would do that. Thanks, Domino Messina. Right, ready for the approach then. Let's route direct to CF22. Execute. Engage LNAV. And we'll descend to 2,500 feet. The best mode when you're single engine to descend is level change. And what we do is select level change, and we just reduce thrust, and the aircraft will simply pitch for the speed. So we just go down to about, put a bit of rudder in here, down to about 64%. The aircraft will slow down. Maintain that speed and descend at that speed. I'm giving the ZIBO 9 out of 10. The only significant issue I've seen at the moment is not able to hold, but I don't think that's even related to the engine failure. The actual handling has been very, very good. The inputs I've made have been very similar to what the real aircraft would be. But yeah, excellent so far. Really, really good. You can't use the auto throttle on single engine, no. Not now pressure anyway. We've got 3 tons of fuel. We're doing about 2 tons an hour, so we've got endurance about an hour and 15 minutes. Max just bought the TCA Boeing yoke. Do you have any sensitivity setting recommendations coming from Airbus? This is all very new. Just plug and play. I've got one for the mod, but it's constantly changing, and the mod's a bit broken in pitch at the moment. It's better, but it's still not perfect. Russ, it's raining. Need to turn your wipers on, otherwise you can't see where you're going. Well, typically in the check, well, I say typically every check, you're in IMC, and even if we were VMC and it was raining, we only need it in the last 500 feet or so. Spyflies, what would you rate the level up? Is that even still going? It needs the actual textures and sounds are really nice, but yeah, flight model's poor.
$2,500.
Yeah, well done, ZIBO. So 10 degrees. Shouldn't need engine anti-ice at the moment, but if it goes to 11, we'll turn it off. We'll start reducing the up speed. We'll add about 70%. Feed in that rudder as you are to keep the control column centre, and you shouldn't then need to make much change because I've got it all trimmed down. Once it's trimmed down, you don't need any rudder input at all. It's about 4 units, and it's working perfectly. One thing that was not accurate in the mod was the speed at which the rudder trim was set. That was way too fast. Can we have an external view? Will the rudder be moving? No, not at all. I can see the engine's just, well, it said 0% M1, but it is just windmilling. That shouldn't be at 0. On autopilot, does the yoke and the throttles move in real life? Yes, it does, Rosex. So about intercept heading, I'll wait until the top of descent point. This is obviously inaccurate. It doesn't know where we're descending because I've not updated it. You can't put that in, it makes no difference. A little bit of thrust here. See, it looks like we're very low, but we're at the platform altitude. Just imagine we were told, or on a vector here. So what I'm going to do is go briefly 90 degrees to the runway, just to give myself a bit of a better intercept heading. Heading select. Yeah, really good. Really, really good. And single engine, guys, the aircraft handles really nicely. Once you've got it in trim and 70% thrust, it handles like the 2 engines. I'm going to start slowing down now, so speed checked. Flap 1. The extension's going to be a lot slower because we've got this only, the engine driven pump's not working. Flap 1 bug is hidden by the white bug here, which is VRF plus 20. Yes, if we'd be under a Mayday, we'd be under a priority B9 bot 1. Absolutely. And usually what happens is 70% single engine, taking a bit of thrust off there. It works for flap 1, flap 5, and gear down flap 15, going down 3 degree ILS. You can actually fly this entire approach without touching the thrust lever if you do it right. Flap 5. Welcome. Flap 5 is VRF plus 5 when you're flying VRFI, so a little bit late with the intercept heading. That's completely my bad. Yeah, about to shoot for the lock. Joshua's paying attention. And when I was an instructor, it's an easy fix. You just press position freeze. We can't do that at the moment. So we'll just keep the we'll go through the localizer. Flap 5 is VRF. Is the same as your final approach speed because we're flying this VRFI, so we've added 10 knots to our approach speed. It's beautiful, handling's really nicely. However, we'll see if it does now. When I did this earlier, the autopilot did not fly the localizer well at all. So I'm going to arm Vorlock now, wings level, it's perfectly in trim. And we're wait now. You usually configure on a glide slope, single engine 1 dot below the glide slope. You want to do it from level flight. So localizer, alive localizer capture. Set runway heading 222. This is perfect. Flat 5. Go on though. You didn't do such a good turning. Oh, it's doing it today. Maybe I just had some weird issue when I loaded it in. Thanks, Sim737 Pilot. It's been a great ride for the last 2 years. Thanks for all that you do and looking forward to hit the next 2. Thank you very much, Sim737 Pilot. ZIBO, you legend! I was having issues earlier. Now it seems to be working. Maybe it's because I was spamming it. Right, localizer capture. This is beautiful. You could argue because I've provided feedback for the team, I might have a sort of affiliation. But I'm being honest with you. I'm doing exactly what I'd be doing in the real aircraft. Or I've never done the real aircraft, but the level D sim, and it's spot on. It's just working flawlessly. Right, so now we're going to wait until... Usually we configure gear down flat 15 on 1 dot, but because we're at VRF ice, we wait until glide slope capture to configure. Remember, we're doing a single engine go around here. Single engine go around. Glide slope alive checked. Beautiful. Stunningly good. We're live weather, don't forget. Do the next approach manually flown for you. A little bit of arm approach, that'll help. Glide slope armed, glide slope capture, gear down, flap 15. Don't need to match the speed. And look at this. Leave the thrust where it is. The mod is so good. Look, the same thrust setting throughout. 70%, single engine clean, flap 1, flap 5. Having to actually add a little bit of thrust. It works really nicely. One engine and operative landing checklist then coming up. Start switch, operative engine continuous recall checks. We've got ELEC associated. Speed brake. Armed green light. Landing gear down 3 green. Order brake is 3 sets. Flaps 15. 15. Green light. Lights are on. Checklist is complete. I cannot explain to you how accurate this has been. The only thing is I've probably got a smidge more thrust than I'd expect. When I say a smidge, yeah, we're about 7% too high here. VREF plus flat 15 gear down at this weight, we're around 58 tons. We need about 70%. I'd say we've got a smidge too much drag here, but it's marginal. You know, in fact, look, I'm actually coming back to 72 and it is holding the speed. Yeah, maybe a little bit too much drag. There we are. Guys, I see loads of questions coming in. If you have any that I've missed or you want to ask them, put them in the comments section after the video and I'll do my best to come back to you. Right then. So we are going to go around at minimums. All they do in the check, they just put you in IMC, and at minimums you can't see anything. So as I go around, toga, go around, flap 1, set ground thrust, and feed in that left rudder. Positive climb gear up, heading select. We're not going to fly the missed approach, we're going to climb straight ahead. There's no terrain issues as well. Right then, I'll leave the automation in. The toga button's down here on my thrustmaster, so I've got a bit of a weird angle going on here. Checked. This has been phenomenal from the mod so far. Absolutely phenomenal.
400.
Checked. Flying this ILS beautifully single.
300.
Single engine.
100.
Checked.
200.
Ooh, thanks for lights.
Minimum.
Right, let's go around. Oh, lovely! You've got to do that in real life. Put the rudder in flap 1. And set ground thrust. We can reduce that slightly now. Shut up the autopilot. Positive rudder climb gear up. Now, the flight director's wrong. Whoa. The flight directors are completely wrong. So in real life, you'd be following those flight directors. Look at my speed. You can't get below VREF. And I wouldn't have raised the gear with descending. The flight directors... Whoa, I'm not in toga, that's why. Why is Vorlock engaged? Did I not? I pressed toga. I swear I pressed toga. Well, Vorlock should not be engaged. That is a glitch. Nah. I pressed toga, I swear to you. If that was correct, then well, the flight director's commanding a descent into the glide slope. Look, it's got glide slope capture. That's got glide slope capture. That is bad, ZIBO. Bad, ZIBO. Toga again. Heading select, thank you. It keeps going glide slope capture. Right, heading select, so we've got. And we're now going to go to 1,000 feet. Yeah, it activated glide slope again. And I've got... I'm just going to have too much rudder in here. Okay, that's better. And we keep flying this until we get to... It shouldn't be VRF plus 5 either. Bug up. Okay. Yeah, so bug up. Now it's looking correct. Now everything's looking spot on. And we're waiting until the one bug to select flaps up. And I forgot to set the missed approach attitude. This is what if this is a reason to have two pilots. This is it. Okay. So I had full rudder in, which is usually what you need single as you go around, but it seemed to be too much in the mod. So it looks like the rudder is maybe a tad too effective. Still got a little bit of left rudder in here. There's the one bug. Now flaps up. Everything's looking perfect now. So again, the flight directors should be commanding a slightly shallower level segment just to get to that up speed there. Trim. Flat retraction's very slow again because of the electric hydraulic pump. One to go. Okay, now it's good, but it kept going out of toga, so that was the only issue there, and I was following the flight directors like a donkey in a carrot. Alright, flaps up, no lights, so level change. Need to select max continuous thrust, so we don't blow the engine up. That is 98, well actually I don't have enough thrust set, 98.0. We can now engage the autopilot. Command. Get ready to level off at 3,000 feet. So the tracking's gone all over the place as well to the wind. This is harder than doing it in real life, in the level D. I'm not saying that means it's the comparison between the two. It's because, you know, seeing the pants sat there, yeah, there are differences between the real thing, but this is a pretty good replica. Right, back to 70%. Release that rudder. It's a bit too sharp there, releasing the rudder. And that's it after takeoff. Check this. Gear auto brake 3. We'll leave it because we have another approach. Checks complete. And we're now going to position left hand downwind for another approach. And this is pretty much how it happens on the sim check. They'll then reposition you to like a another intercept heading. Or no, sorry, to a sort of short final because you've already flown it, hand flown it for a landing. So yeah. Let's dissect what happened there. So when I went around, push toga, go around flap one, set ground thrust. Now I am pretty sure, not sure without playing, 100% sure without playing stream back, I pushed toga. I certainly pushed it the second time, but then it kept capturing the glide slope. That should not happen. Once you push toga, it's inhibited, and you get the correct guidance from the flight directors. Look, I'm still getting Vorlock armed, Vorlock capture, and approach is still armed. So there's a lot of bugs here. There's a lot of bugs here with the automation here. Things like arming, Vorlock and all that sort of stuff shouldn't be happening. So go around, press to Vorlock. I didn't press Vorlock, I pushed toga. Are you ready? Have you pulling my leg? I'll have to play it back. Yeah, it definitely recaptured the localized glide slope, because so long as you push toga, single engine, the flight directors will give you the correct guidance. Single engine is designed to, knows what's going on, and it'll give you the appropriate guidance. Once it got established with the correct modes in toga, following the roll mode, pitch mode, it was quite nice. It did quite a good job. Yeah, we'll have a look. I'll have to play it back and see what I did. Remember, I am prone to errors, single pilot in the desktop simulator, so don't use this as any sort of official guidance on your type rating. But yes, it's doing a sort of 8 out of 10 job now, I'd say. When the automation's let it down slightly today, it's purely been the issues we've had, is not able to hold, ignored the hold, and weird stuff going on a go around. But I'll let ZIBO know, and hopefully he'll fix these. Otherwise, the single engine handling has been pretty good, pretty good. So what we're going to do now, we're going to reposition, do another approach, single engine, hand flown. So we'll position downwind, and then we'll do exactly the same again in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We'll load up on the runway, do the exact same scenario. Flight guide, for the sim check in real life, do you have to travel somewhere, or is it at your base? Now we have multiple training centres at my airline. I sometimes have to go out of base to travel to it, and other times. Well, that's a very personal question. I'm not going to go keep on chatting there, but yeah, usually I've got to go in a car. Looks back, FMA gave Vorlock and toga. Seemed a strange combination. Yeah. So when you push toga, what should happen? the auto throttle's disconnected. You should have no thrust mode, no roll mode, just toga. Only toga here, no Vorlock. So something, yeah, it was a bit glitchy. But when you push toga, we should lose all that. Ah, Lawrence Draper. So I didn't push it. Someone's saying I did. Someone's saying I didn't. I'm curious now. I'm going to play the stream back myself. Whilst we're down here, wind here, on my separate window. Myself. Let's have a look. See what I did. I'm watching it. I'm actually watching my own stream back in time. No, I 100% pushed the button. I can see it saying toga on the FMAs. I 100% push the button. Minimum. So you can, as soon as I say go around, you can see the toga FMA. That means I push the button. It wouldn't say that otherwise. So I'm happy I didn't make that error. It's drilled into us during training. Do not forget to push toga. So I'll take that back. Lovely, Joshua. Lovely. But yeah. Situation 2.4, burning a little bit sippy on the fuel. I expect about 1.92 tons here. But you have to expect a little bit more fuel being burned. I'm not going to complain. 2.4 tons. Endurance is going to be about an hour and 15 minutes. So yeah, single engine ILS. You've got to be trained to do it. Obviously, if you're having to do it, that's a really bad day in the office. Excellent. Do. In fact, I can actually speed up time because we are just at I never do this in normal streams, but just because we're waiting to turn base and reconfigure. I'll now descend to 2,500 feet. Level change.
1,000 to go.
Reduce a bit of thrust. Flat 1. Oh no, it's not liking the increased sim rate there. Flat 5. Need to reselect the approach, don't I, as well? Approach, ILS-22. Oh yeah, this FMC is bugged as hell. Absolutely broken. ILS-22. I'll even select a start, execute. Oh, there we go. I've got some stuff now. Oh, I've got some stuff now, but that was not correct to start with. No, it still is broken. Where is my runway point? It's completely gone. The FNC is balked, guys, I'm afraid. I've selected departure approach. I've got Laurel with no approach in the FMC. Arrivals. Let me just select ILS-04 quickly. That's worked. So maybe now I've selected that one, I can now reselect 22. It shouldn't do that, but maybe that's a workaround. Okay. That's a workaround. Execute. Right, flat 5 speeds. And we'll add the thrust as well now. Feed in the rudder. No, this is X-Plane 12 at the moment. Give myself an intercept heading. As soon as we're wings level, we'll disconnect and hand fly it. And this will be to a landing. Do you like these sort of streams though, guys? Of course, the norm will be a flight from A to B, but I like to do things different slightly. See what's what. Jim Lee, why you sound American? Hey y'all! Is that better? My V1 simulations impression. Single handling is it's flying so well in the autopilot. Really nice. Are you going over to PMDG after this? We are. Right. Wings level on intercept heading, well, arm approach. And I'm just going to do some elements of the landing checklist. Start switches, recall, speed brake still armed. Flaps just to 15. Right, disconnecting. It's about a 12-mile final. And you have to demonstrate this in your recency sim, your check. You have to hand fly this. real life you wouldn't hand flight. You'd obviously utilise the automation to lower your workload. So usually, as you turn, you add a lot of thrust. You add a bit of thrust just to make sure the speed doesn't go too low. It's quite normal. And you don't really need to make any rudder inputs. For every thrust change, if you make significant changes, you might need to retrim the rudder. I've got the butter calculator on just to keep you all happy. A little less thrust now, we're wings level. Sort of like the steep turn, really. About 70% to maintain VRF plus 5 at the flat 5 speed level here. Perfect. Looking really, really good. Wait for glide slip alive now. Absolutely dreadful weather. I do think X-Plane exaggerates rain a lot. I'm very glad I've got a panel state, guys. So when we load up Microsoft Flight Simulator, exact same scenario, except we'll start on the runway, we'll load in the same failures. The only problem is I'll have to activate the fire manually. It's not based off any speed, you can't select it, only a V1 cut. But I'll leave the page open, and then as soon as we're airborne, I'll just execute the fire as well. Glide slope's alive. Next one as well, we'll skip out the decision-making process as well. We'll just go towards Abbott, enter the hold, once around the holes, and then fly another approach. So we've already sort of looked at that today. If we weren't flying VRFI, so we'd be flying 10 knots faster at the moment, and we'd now be configuring gear down flat 15 at 1 dot, but we'll wait right until glide slope capture. Glide slope capture. So, gear down, flap 15. You don't need to match the speed, because VRF ice is the same as flap 5. And it's pretty much the same thrust setting, just to get a little bit of the thrust there. So start switch, continuous, recall we checked already. Speed brakes armed, landing gear down 3 green, order brake 3. Flap 15, 15 green light, lights are on, checks complete. Get a little bit too much thrust required, I think, here. Gear down flap 15. It ain't bad. Almost 2 tons of fuel. We've been flying for 47 minutes now, and we have done a single engine go around as well. The rudder doesn't trim for you, right? No, Patrick, not in this aeroplane. No trim at all. It's all manual. It's a big Seneca. This is a big Seneca, guys. Just watching my localizer. Just follow the flight directives. Now your ground speed is obviously a lot higher, and your rate of descent required to stay on the glide slope is higher too. So you can sort of anticipate. The glide slope's oscillating a little bit there, mod. That's a little bit inaccurate. Should be nice and smooth.
1,000.
Checked. Runway's in sight. And as you close the thrust, feed in the rudder just to maintain runway centre line. Don't overthink it. A lot of people overthink the rudder correction in the flare. Just do it as if it was crossing landing. Just apply the rudder as needed. Through the flight director slightly. They seem to be very sensitive. But the handling's very nice.
500.
Oh, thanks. But Jim, wipe us on, please. You have to ignore it.
400.
Flight directors have gone very sensitive now. I don't know why. We still select reverse thrust on the operative engine. Flat 15 as well. I can't see. Flat 15 very floaty, so you just got to get it down. Don't, if you try and float or do butter, you'll just go take off again. Continue. Oh, wipe us, please.
100.
What's going on? Well, I can't see
50,
very well.
40, 30.
Check.
20,
Close.
10.
Just get it down, guys. Don't want to mess around. Right, that'll do. Speed brakes up. Reverses on engine number 1. That's 83%. You wouldn't let go of the control column. I just want to get my wipers on. 100. 80. Manual braking. 60 knots. Cancel reverse. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Stansted. Well done, ZIBO. Really not bad at all. Few issues. The main issues were to do with flight directors and the hold. It wasn't actually a single engine issue. It was actually very well handled. Really well handled. Right, we'll vacate. Usually in this situation you'd have emergency service on standby. I'd probably vacate the runway, stop, have the aircraft inspected. If there was significant damage and they didn't want me to taxi, I would. Otherwise, if there seemed to be no damage, I'd carry on taxiing to the stand single engine. But there we are. And we'll bring it to a stop. Perfect. Really, really nice. Very impressed with how the mod handled there. Really, really good. Perfect. Would you like a replay? Actually, guys, I'm a bit tight for time. This has gone a bit longer. So what I'm going to do is fire up Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we're going to do the exact same thing all over again. Same scenario, same weather, in the PMDG 737. See how it compares. I've done it already. I have to say, it's incredibly close. It's incredibly close. Yeah, I want to just make sure it all works properly. There's issues with the mod, as we saw here, the automation. There's issues with the PMDG, but both of them are very, very good. Anyway, let's put you to the Be Right Back screen. I'll load up Microsoft Flight Simulator. Meet me on runway 22, ready to go. We're going to go straight into the takeoff and repeat it again. So yeah, guys, I know I said replay. Actually, I'm a bit tight for time, guys, but I'll see you in about 5-10 minutes or so. Cheers, guys. Welcome back, guys. Thank you very much for your patience. I had to load up Microsoft Flight Simulator as quickly as I could, load into Stansted, and load up my panel state. In fact, I just need to reset the Q&A setting, which has changed from when I was testing it earlier. So yes, here we are in Stansted. It's the exact same scenario. In fact, the weather's looking a little bit gloomier than it did in X-Plane 12, but yes, this is just, again, the default Stansted Airport, and guys, it is identical. Absolutely identical. Same weight, same fuel. The speeds were, I think, pretty much... Well, no, they weren't pretty much. They were exactly the same as what the ZIBO mod said, even the trim. And the thrust as well, 90.7, full 22k. So same scenario. I just need to engage the failures. So we're going to go down here. So menu, FS actions... Oh, no, I think it's under PMDG setup. Aircraft failures. Just turn up the sim slightly. So we're going to go over to engine. Programmed, we're going to select, and we're going to do the same engine, because I want to show you something that isn't quite well modelled here. It's the flap retraction. It's as quick as it should be. It isn't as quick as it should. No, it's too quick. It should be slower with the engine-driven pump out. But it was engine 2. We're going to do V1 cut, which I think. Oh no, it was a bit early with this one as well. So we're going to do VR cut, engine 2. No, we want to execute that one actually. So active that one. Execute. So that's now going to cut V2. engine number 2, and then what I'm going to do, the fire, unfortunately, unlike the mod, cannot be armed. So I'm going to go to fire, programmed engine fire number 2, active, and leave it like that. Okay, so I'll just execute that and simulate the fire so I can still do the same drill. Oh, well spotted. Flight level 170. Where have you seen that? Someone else has that. 1,000. Yeah, the MFRA. I knew you need to set. I had it set. I don't think it's. Oh, yeah, I hadn't saved it quite right. There you are, 1348. X-Plane 12 default live weather is still kind of off. Q8 Pilot did a comparison with the two, and it was quite noticeable. Yeah, I haven't actually tried the ASXB Active Sky update yet. Anyway, that's it. We're all ready to. Oh, you're playing trivia. Oh, right. Okay, if you have something to do here. But yeah, if you guys are ready, we're going to go straight into it again. Same drill, same procedure. We'll skip out sort of a decision-making process, but we'll do the checklist, and we'll see how the two handles. So, Toga's in chat. We'll start the timer, and we'll set about release parking brake. There we are, 40%. So I'll just turn up the sounds again. It seems to be quite quiet. There we are. So all stabilised. Set takeoff thrust. We've lost my auto throttle already. Let me just try it again. Arm, Toga, N1. Light forward pressure now. Checked, release forward pressure. Throttle hold. V1. There's the engine failure. Ignore any cautions. Master cautions and warnings. Gear up. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Need a little bit more rudder in though. Positive climb, gear up. And what I can automatically tell, I need more rudder than the mod, but that's good. I think I didn't need to see as much rudder as this. This is good. This is very good. And honestly, this is slow as you climb out. I'd say this is pretty good performance-wise. Oh yeah, I need to activate the fire. Hold on. The trim though is so crap in the PMDG. Look, I'm still trimming those up. Look. Still not in trim. There it goes.
Wide slope.
Right,
Wide slope.
we're climbing away.
Wide
We're maintaining
slope.
this speed,
Wide slope.
and we're going to activate that fire now as well. Engine fire. And there's 400 feet. Heading select. Match the heading. State malfunction. Follow these flight directives. This is my poor flying
Wide
here.
slope.
That should not be. That should be inhibited. So we're on trim on the flight directives. Get back to the V2 or whatever the speed was that the engine failed at. So auto throttle, if engage, disengage, state malfunction, engine fire, thrust lever engine number 2 confirmed closed, engine fire switch, engine start lever engine number 2 confirmed cut off, engine fire switch pull, rotate. And it shouldn't be. It does this in the PMDG. It springs back to the middle position. It shouldn't do that. It should stay in the armed position. Now the performance seems very, very accurate. Actually, I'd say if I was to say between the two, if you go full 22k, I think maybe looking back now, the mod might have had a little bit too much thrust on that one engine. It seems to be climbing more as I'd anticipate. Well, maybe a bit too slow, but we've got 90.1. We should have about 90.6 where the green bug is, but oh, actually no, it should be 90.1 if we didn't use reduced thrust. So yeah, it's climbing, but very, very, very slowly. Oh, I know why. Can we do it again? Can we do it again? I was gonna say. It's this. I did put the gear up. Did I put the gear up? Did I put the gear up? God damn! I put the gear up. It does this. Oh, stupid. Please tell me I put the gear up. I swear I pressed it up. It just doesn't go up and it coded right. Right, performance is perfect. Bug up. Now it's going to come out a level segment. You did do it. Didn't do it. I haven't got the capacity to look at chat in this situation, but I'm going to do it again. Flaps 1. I'm trying to look at chat and fly this. Yeah, that's better. Was the lever on fire? Right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do it again because that is an unfair comparison otherwise. Oh! Right, tell me, please look at the chat. Did I put the gear up? I set that up. It just doesn't come up sometimes. There seems to be an issue, I think, with the PMDG and putting the gear command up. I reset that. Right, we're gonna do it again. I've got to go back to the menu for this. Otherwise, it's not going to be a fair comparison, is it? Oh dear. That was a flight deck to sim rage quit. Oh dear, stupid peripherals. Why did it do that? Oh dear.
Rage quit.
Right, don't worry. It'll literally take me 2 minutes to get this set up again. So, runway 22, fly. Right, I'm going to push G this time. But that stresses why it's so important to have 2 pilots, because you'd realise if you had the gear down still, you'd like to hope for 2 pilots there. Yeah, that is a significant issue on an engine failure. If you have an engine failure, you don't put the gear up, you are not going to have sufficient performance, and you're going to die if you don't get it up. Right, so where's my super secret save? Fire stand, there we are, execute. And that is done. So I just needed to change the MFRA, QNH, arm the failure. We're going to restart the experiment. PMDG setup, aircraft failures, engine, programmed, engine 2, severe damage, or VR cut, that's what we want, it shows severe damage. So VR cut, engine 2, active, execute, fire, programmed, engine 2 fire, active, and then we'll execute that on the climber. Right, there we go. That is done. Sorry about that. That was a little simism, but yeah, I had not raised the gear, and I will not use my gear lever. So I'm just gonna. Yeah, look. What? Putting it down's putting it up. God damn it. Right, okay. I think I'll just press G. I haven't got time to have a look at that settings. What have I done? Right, anyway, Toga's in chat. Number 2, exactly the same situation as before, and in X-Plane 12 with the ZIBO mod. Right, timing, parking brake released. Oh, better sort my thrust levers out. There we are. 40%. There we are. All good. Stabilised. Set takeoff thrust. Why does the autothrottle disconnect? Set takeoff thrust again. Right. Takeoff thrust at indicational. Now, one of the things I don't like about Microsoft Flight Simulator checked is that look at the wind. I'll let go. There's my feet off the rudders. Look, there's a 16 knot crosswind, and the smallest amount is your right engine failure. Rotate. There should be a lot more crabbing there. Right, feeding the rudder in, and we're airborne. That rotation was a little bit quick on my behalf. Positive rate of climb. Gears coming up. So just following the flight directions. I've lost LNAV as well. Yeah, right. Well, we can't select any roll mode here, so I have no idea what the flight directors are commanding in roll when there's no roll mode. I'm just gonna have to look at the ND. That's better. So 400 feet. Just heading select, match heading. I'm just going to get this in trim. Right, guys. They keep. Someone tell me the trim's fine. It's not fine at all. Now it's in trim. So heading select. Let's activate the fire. Okay, fire warning. State malfunction. So, fly the airplane here, so bug up. So the handling's not bad. The handling's not bad at all. Flight director's coming down now to command a level segment to accelerate the aircraft. Left rudder in. So state malfunction, engine fire engine number 2. Auto throttle if engage, disengage. Oh, why is this thrust gone down? Don't want to be doing that. Single engine. Thrust lever number 2, we'd confirm close. Oh, the speed of doing this. Engine start lever, pull, rotate. It jumps to the middle. The PMDG should not do that. It should stay in that position. But it has discharged. Let's start a time of 30 seconds. Flap 1. Handling's actually pretty good. But as you accelerate, look, I'm trimming nose up. Look, I've no input and pitch. It's still not, nose is still not going down. 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 Now it's going down to a point, and now it's in sort of trim now. It's the amount of trim you have to put in this thing is it's always been that way. Right, the commands are good though. Flap 1 we have. Though the ZIBO's stayed in the correct position. That should be the upspeed as well. But the single engine performance we're getting is excellent. Really replicating what I'd expect at this weight and this thrust setting. If I was to be a little bit more critical with the flight directors, it should be commanding level flight right till it gets the upspeed. It's sort of commanding a climb a little bit too early there, as if it had 2 engines on. So flaps up, no lights. That's a little bit too quick. Well, it's the same speed. They've not modelled the reduction and or the speed at which the hydraulic pressure retracts the flaps, because obviously we've only got an electric driven pump here. So flaps up, no lights. Just trim. Look, I'm not. Come on, let's get you in trim first. I thought that they had fixed it, but it's not worse. I'm still trimming those up. That's no speed trim system. Right, flaps up, no lights. Level change. N1 limit. Max continuous thrust 98.1. So increasing thrust on engine number 2. That's good. Let's go now. It's pretty much trimmed out. Command A, there we are. And I haven't touched the rudder trim yet, so I'm just helping. There we are. So it's on the flight directors. I've still got full left rudder in. I've still, well, not full, but I've got left rudder in. A lot of people have a common mistake with an engine failure of putting the autopilot in, then they relax their feet. Don't do that, otherwise you go into a uncontrolled situation. But I'd say that was pretty good. Remember, these are desktop simulators, pretty good. It's just the main thing I see is still the trim. So back to 70%, slowly reduce that rudder. It's about 70, 72. And credit to both devs, PMDG and ZIBO, I plugged in the same thrust, same attitude. They're both exactly the same, and they're both handling. Oh, I've still got a fire, wonderful. So rotate bottle number 2. And it should not spring to centre. Don't worry, the wing's still on fire. It's on fire. Right, and now we're going to get the rudder trim in. So I've got a lot of left rudder in still. Now we're going to trim about 4 units. The trim speed is more realistic with the PMDG. So I'm slowly reducing the rudder. I can't see if we're falling out of the sky or not. Set 4 units. Perfect. Look at that. Control column should be roughly centred. A little bit less trim, in fact. Fire's gone out, but look, this is inaccurate. If you do this, it springs back to centre. Shouldn't spring back to centre. Should stay in wherever you lift it. There we are. Fire extinguished, and we were exactly the same. Complete the checklist. We're going to route direct to Abbott. Execute. Engage LNAV. Aircraft's now going to turn. I'm afraid there's a slight issue though in the PMDG. It does not like to follow the automation very well, single engine. We'll keep an eye on it. Enter the holder Abbott, and it's no, they don't have this coded in the. I don't know why this uses the same database, but this one isn't coded in this sim. But it is 265 right-hand turns. So thrusters can maybe a little bit high on speed. 265 right-hand turns. So actually, to be fair, it's doing this turn quite well. I just want to see what happens when it gets to inbound to the radial. The hold's in, and when we can do the checklist as well. The rain looks convincing. Yeah, the rain was pretty good. I like the rain effects. Are a bit weird in X-Plane. Going a little bit fast. One thing I've noticed is in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I'll set my thrust but it seems to be parasitic drag doesn't seem to be model well. It just seems to continuously accelerate as if there's until it eventually slows down. But it's doing a good job here. Last time, I just want to make sure it goes outbound towards Abbott, because last time it didn't do it very well. It just kept going in a left turn, but so far so good. It's perfectly in trim. It's going to struggle again. Yeah. See, look, the PMDG cannot fly a single engine. Cannot fly a single engine. Look at this. Unfortunately, it just can't do it. It did this earlier. It worked in FSX, so I did my tutorial. We should be going towards Abbott. The flight director is commanding right, and unfortunately, when I did my test sector, look, it's doing it, but it's too late. We should be in a perfect straight line, so they need to tweak something here. It's perfectly in trim. The rudder is perfectly in trim. 70%, 4 units. It's not having to fight anything. But you can see, look, it's just a little bit lazy. It will get back there, but it will just oscillate continuously. So are you going to find yourself flying single engine much in your respective desktop simulator? No, you're not. But this, you know, if we're comparing it between the two, one works fine, this one doesn't. It just cannot do it at all. You have to basically wings level, update it, and then it will do it for you. So what I'll do, I'll help it out. I'll go direct to Abbott again, execute. That will with the flight directors nice and level, and just give it a gentle turn so it can deal with it. So that is something that they need to fix. Right, because we've already done all the checks already, I'm going to quickly reconfigure the aircraft single engine. So we check the memory items, fire extinguished, reconfigure the plane here. So isolation valve switch. We can close, open the crossfeed valve, this is all the wrong order. We've got the inbound, which is this very accurate, low side pumps off. You guys need to keep an eye on that for me. Pack switch on the affected side needs to come off as well. APU bleed off. And guys, I would never ever take this sort of high speed, not following a checklist approach. This is just my days as an SFI, quickly reconfiguring the aircraft for each phase. Dave kept order brake to off, that comes later. The key thing at the moment is reconfiguring the airplane for single engine flight. We do that as part of the after takeoff checklist after we've completed any QH checklist. So we just wait for the APU to start. Did you spill coffee on the FMS again? I know, that was that photo. Ridiculous, wasn't it? I insist on doing all my VATSIM flights on one engine to list them in. But yeah, but you know, the ZIBO mod had problems. It seems to navigate fine, but the ZIBO mod couldn't hold. Unfortunately, as you'll see when we get to Abbott, this just doesn't work. It cannot hold. You see, it can't manage turns. It can't hold a single engine either. So both aircraft need to be tweaked to be able to fly accurately single engine. Now, I missed a donation there. Sim737 pilot, one of the members, thank you. Did you oh, hold on, I've just lost it. Did you set Microsoft Flight Simulator Turbo to real default to low? I have no idea. I've not changed anything. I didn't even know if you could change it. But single engine performance wise, perfect looked. 70%, 220 knots, 5 degrees. Perfect. This is exactly what you need single engine. You had that fire. You can see it's just windmilling slowly, just like in the ZIBO mod. But both are showing 0% M1. With 0, there should be no windmilling. You know, either the fan blades are damaged or something stopped it there. Right, so APU should be available. We can pop that on the bus. There we are, that's on the bus. Balancing the fuel, transponder mode selected to TA. Isolation valve switch auto. We should now see the left duct increasing. That ensures that we've got bleed air available for wing anti-ice if needed. And then we can do the one engine operative landing checklist. But firstly, the after takeoff checklist. Gears off, order brakes off. Start switches. We can actually take off. There we are, but we will perhaps... Actually, we're going to go into rain, aren't we? So we should have had the engine anti-ice on. There we are. We then do our decision making. Let's imagine we decided to go to Stansted, so we're going to go to departure arrivals, ILS22, execute. That's perfect. We should say unable cruise altitude once we go after this. Execute. So yeah, that hasn't come up. 2,500. Oh no, sorry, wait, 4,000. 4,000 feet. Execute. Perfect. And let's just see how it holds. I had problems with it earlier, but it looks... let's just see what happens. And then we're going to fly another approach. How does it manage the turns if you were to limit the bank angle? Well, in LNAV you can't, Andrew. In LNAV it's completely automated. The aircraft, you can't set the bank angle. The aircraft sets it for you. In heading select, yes, and actually I think the PMDG is fine in heading, but in following the magenta line in LNAV, it doesn't do the best job. Tight turns, that is. Seems to be fine, straight line. Does the isolation valve open automatically to provide bleed air for the right anti-ice? So the isolation valve has no input on it. The engine anti-ice availability list. I mean, that comes before the bleed system. It's not wing anti-ice. It's upwind upflow. What's the word I'm looking for of the system? So it doesn't matter what the configuration is of this. You'll have engine anti-ice. Watch out for fuel balance. Yeah, absolutely. We're using fuel from tank number 2. We've got 1460. We've already reconfigured it, so you guys need to remind me when it gets a little closer. Whilst we're entering the hold, let's just set up for the ILS approach. So runway 22, 10 and 4, just for situation awareness. And the minimum's 548. 548. Perfect. No checklist. Rob, we've already done the checklist once today. It's sort of just as would happen in the sim check. I've done the checklist in the mod in Explain 12. I've just essentially done it, but reconfigured, as I would have done if I was an instructor still, as an SFI, because in these sessions you have to quickly reconfigure the aircraft for each independent phase. So that's what I've done. And we've discussed the decision-making process. We did a PA and an ITS briefing earlier, so if you'd like to see all of that, go back here. This is just more a handling exercise. We're just going to go around the world once in Abbott, and then we'll go from there. We've already briefed it once today. Yaroslav, what is your route across the pond? I have one. I'll announce that close to the time. I'll be flying the Rotate MD-11, and the video description and the video name at the top. I'll change that on Friday. It's going to be a long old stream. I'll be giving away 2 copies of the MD-11. I'll be purchasing one myself, but I just read Rotate got back to me. They'll also like to provide a copy for one of you as well, gifted from Rotate. Very generous of them. Yes, sorry, engine anti-ice you turn off on the inoperative engine. There you go. Perfect. So we're entering the hold. We'll start planning for a flat 15 landing. So flat 15, 158. Was that the same speed in the mod? Can't be too far off. Plus 10, because we're flying VRFIs. Check the performance. We'll go order brake 3, and you can already see. Look, it just doesn't want to do tight turns. And one of the other things I've noticed, you see how in the turn the speed drops off. It's a little bit too slow. In reality, there's a little bit more drag associated with that turn. So we can just add a little bit of thrust, but it is decreasing. It's quite linear in its behaviour. Do you not set AP for 2 power supplies? You've lost 1 engine. I've done it already. We've got the left IDG and transferring the left AC transfer bus 1 and the right APU generators supplying it AC transfer bus 2. There we are. Oh, look, it's actually tightened the turn quite nicely now. Let's just see if it rolls out. Should be going direct to Abbott here. So, single engine go around. We go around normal procedure except to use flap 1. In theory, can you fly for longer alternating between 2 engines instead of using both at the same time? I see your point, Daffy. No, there's too much drag associated with that engine not producing any thrust. So you're not going to go anywhere near as far. You've got essentially a 4-ton, 5-ton lump of metal producing a lot of drag and no thrust. I have to say, those clouds look spectacular in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, credit to PMDG, it seems to be dealing with the hold a little better than it did in the initial turn. Why it struggled with that turn, I'm not so sure. Randy, I believe in the PMDG you do need to manually switch the bank angle degree knob even though you're in LNAV. Are you sure, Randy? I very much highly doubt that. I've got it set to 25 degrees and it's doing 10 degrees now, so that's not right. That would be a big error if they had done. But it should be the autopilot nailing that flight director. It should be bang on that white square on the flight director at all times with the autopilot. It is unfortunately struggling a little. But it's doing the job. It's just a little lethargic. Right. So what we're going to do now is roll out the heading. It did that a little better than I expected, but I think it might just turn slightly past Abbott here. You can see that there it goes. It's just struggling to follow it slightly, but it's sort of, its nature is a little jerky, but it's actually dealt with that turn a lot better than it did when I was testing it earlier. Right, so we're on an intercept heading. We're going to maintain heading now, descend to 2,500 feet, level change. We can now reduce thrust on engine number 1. The aircraft's going to pitch for 220 knots and descend to 2,500 feet. Very, very nice. We'll configure for no engine bleed landing, so close, bleed 1 off, APU bleed on, engine 2 bleed off, and left pack, sorry, to auto. So the APU's provided pressurization to the aircraft, and the engines are not providing any pressurization. Gives you a little bit more go-around thrust. Yaroslav, can you give an example of a situation when you'd perform a cross-bleed start? In flight? Oh, that would be off scheduled descent. That's completely my fault. Not in this situation. Severe damage. There's no point attempting a restart in this situation. You need N1 rotation. Checked. So remember, we fly a first approach with the automation to a single engine go around, which I've not tested. I've not had the time to actually try this in the PMDG 7.3, just a quick engine failure, takeoff and landing. So this will be a first. VREF was 154 for flat 15, and explain 154. Okay, so these are a little lower. Interesting. And we're about the same weight. Guys, because I'm flying the approach, you're going to have to tell me when the fuel's balanced. I'm going to miss it otherwise. But this is very nice. We'll extend the centre line.
2,500.
Execute. That's a nice intercept heading onto a 10-mile final. Then when we're level, we'll keep the thrust as it is, and we'll reduce the speed to the flat 5 speed. Is the fuel warning normal? Absolutely normal, because we were only using fuel after the engine failure from the tank number 1 engine. So until I reconfigure the panel, which we need to confirm there's no leak first before doing it, the inbound will continue. So that's completely normal. So there we are, level, out to quiet. We'll leave the thrust where it is, flap 1. Single engine handling on the climb out there was excellent. Very, very good. It does bloodline, it does. Flap 5. But the flap extension retraction's based off 2 engines running, or engine number 2 running. It should be a lot slower. But that deceleration's quite nice, 55%. It's looking good. We're on the speed brake. There we are. Start configuring, star switches, recool, checked, speed brake, that's ELEC and fuel associated. I'm just flat 15, so I'm just doing the landing checklist now because I won't have the capacity to do it on approach there. Right, correct sensing, arming approach. It's a little bit late, that was late on the other one as well. So add the thrust, that's good, need about 70%. And it's doing that turn onto final really nicely. So the autopilot seems to be doing okay in certain situations. It's a little late arming the approach there, but you can see, look, it's that's more my fault. The autopilot's just catching up there. I've just given a little bit of a help with rudder trim. That was more sort of my fault. On the next one, we'll look at that again. So I'm having to add a bit of thrust. That's my fault because I got below VREF back of the drag curve. That was quite nice. Really, really nice. The only thing that isn't nice though is the proximity of the PLIs. That ain't right. Let me just check the landing weight, make sure I've not made an error. 59.1, 148, 158. So this is, as earlier I saw, this too close to the PLIs. Flat 5 should be fine at this speed. There should be much more margin. Much more margin. Yaroslav, would you use cross-speed to start on the ground in case one engine is started by an air unit, or just start both of the ground units? Cross-speed start, yeah. Start one with the APU air, the external air, and then cross-speed start after pushback. Glide slopes alive. Waiting until glide slope capture. So hopefully my little gear handle will work. I'm just going to push gear here. So gear down, flap 15, and match speed. Glide slope capture, missed approach altitude 3,000 feet is set. And just like with the ZIBO mod, look at that. See how the thrust is pretty much identical for the entire phase. Sometimes a little bit more, a little bit more thrust, but that's spot on. That's spot on. Really, really nice. Just forgot to set my heading. So I've already done the landing checklist. Flaps 15 green light, lights on, checks complete. The only thing I've noticed, the PLI's a little bit too close there. Right, fuel, yeah, well spotted. 1480, 1460, balanced. Pumps on. Very well spotted there, Andre and Joshua and everyone else. Thank you. So it's a little bit slow, that's my fault, but you can see as I add the thrust, see how the aircraft yaws? I'd put a little bit of rudder in as well there. Yeah, not bad. Honestly, right now, between the two, it's 50-50. The mod couldn't hold. This actually held quite well, but it couldn't follow the magenta line. And all the issues we've had in both aircraft have been to do with automation. And the flight directors, the actual single engine handling has been pretty good. Perfect. Yaroslav, I think you're getting a bit confused with the start procedure, but I know what you're trying to say. You have to use it, but yeah, I can't explain now. That's too complex a situation. There's a lot of variables with regards to cross-bleed starts and why you start the engine there. Check out, Yaroslav, my engine start procedure tutorial. So there, covers both of them there. Right, checked. So remember, as a go around at minimums. Disconnect. Oh no, wait, hold on. That's for the next. I was a bit ambitious there. Command A. We'll do a normal go around. The next one will hand fly. So the toga button's the same button assigned here. I'll doubly make sure put the gear up as well. But this is very, very good by PMDG. Very good. My only concern are those proximity to those PLIs. So when I push toga, remember I'm going around on this one, guys.
500.
Checked. So when I push toga, it'll automatically disconnect the autopilot. That's how I know. Yeah, I've pushed it.
300.
Checked.
Approaching minimums.
3 reds.
200. Minimum.
Right, so go around. Flap 1. Very, very, very nice. And flaps 1. Set going first. Pause rate, climb gear up.
Too low. Terrain. Too low. Gear.
They should not be going off at
Too
all.
low. Gear. Too low. Gear.
There we are. And that should not be going off. That's the gear warning horn. That should not be going off. Set ground thrust. Okay, that's annoying. Heading select. But otherwise, it's really, really, really good. If the gear warning horn wasn't going up, bug up. If the gear warning horn should not be sounding at the moment, and the gear warning horn, that is very annoying. But otherwise, that's a win at the moment for single engine handling. I think that's a little bit better than the mod, if I'm honest. A little bit more rudder needed. Shut up! That should not be going off. Oh, thank it. It hurt me. Right, I have an issue though. Look at the flight directors. I'm following them. They're commanding a 1,000 700 foot climb rate. That is not correct. It should be level single engine, so the aircraft can accelerate. There's logic in there to ensure that in the event of an engine failure, it commands a level segment. That is incorrect from PMDG. And when you're at the upspeed, then it will pitch up to maintain the speed. Look, I'm looking through the flight director to accelerate to the upspeed. That was not accurate there. Right, there's the upspeed, so I can pitch up there. To follow it now, I can follow the flight directors. Out acquire, so bug up, level change, max continuous thrust. I didn't have the opportunity to do. So we'll just level off. But the handling is superb. So we'll just get the aircraft accelerating. Yeah, the gear warning horn, that should not be sounding. Neither should all the warnings. Out hold. 70%, and neutralise the rudder. Ah, very, very good. The handling was excellent. Really quite good. Right. Just trim. You've got to trim it so much. I'm trimming it as I'd expect to in the real aircraft, and I'm like trimming. I'm like, oh no, it needs a lot more. Right. It's just rolling a little bit on its own, so just reset the rudder. Command. And we've got 74% rudder. I can now neutralise. It should be exactly the same, so I've not changed the rudder trim. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Looking back then, what was an issue? The issue, toga guidance was much better than the mod. It got the correct guidance, no roll mode, no pitch mode. Errors were, there was a gear warning horn that should not be sounding on a go around with that amount of thrust on the engine. I had some terrain warnings as well, but the big main issue from a sort of would be a big concern in real life would be after I bugged up, the flight director bar comes down and it commands a near level segment to accelerate the aircraft to the upspeed. Same with the after takeoff when you bug up at the MFRA. In this case, it was commanding a 1,800, 1,900 foot climb. You can't accelerate at that attitude and that rate of climb single engine. So the flight directors, they need to tweak slightly to ensure that it commands a level segment. But guys, these are real nitpicking things. Both aircraft have been excellent. In fact, I think certain elements of the PMDG are slightly better than the mod. The handling is a nice surprise. There's certain elements on takeoff and landing, but I really like there. But yeah, not bad at all. But you can see, look, this autopilot just cannot deal with single engine. Look, I'm not touching anything at all. Just to show you. Look, heading is over there. PMDG, it cannot deal with this single engine. Look, 045, please. Command heading select. There it goes. So it just cannot. Oh yeah, fuel imbalance. What's going on? So we got, yeah, probably a slightly different output of the pumps here. So what we're going to do is take off pump low on this side now, and that can happen in real life. I guess PMDG have modelled slightly different pump output pressure, so you've got to keep an eye on it, reconfigure, just keep the fuels balanced. Keep the fuel balanced there. Well spotted there, and DLJ. So yeah, that was not bad at all. But look at the autopilot struggling to fly the heading here. I think the autopilot in the mod did a better job single engine handling. The PMDG's worse. It's so close. They are both excellent. I really good. It's getting there. It just oscillates around the heading. Right, after takeoff checklist. Just remind me about the fuel pumps later as well. I forgot to set the auto brake too. And checks complete. And we'll do another approach to a landing. And then we'll have to call it a day, because I have slightly overrunning today. But yeah, the single engine handling was really nice. It was really nice. Right. Reselect the approach. That's fine. Missed approach, depending on where it is and how it is. It was a right turn there in reality, but yeah, the FMC look is much better now. I think in the PMDG look. That's how it should work in the. Have I said that too early? CF22. Hey, I spoke too soon. Both the ZIBO MOD and PMDG's FMCs are struggling on missed approaches to draw accurate paths and stuff, but the ZIBO's was a little worse. It went all bugged out. This is not how it should draw that line. Yeah, it just doesn't know what to do. So what we're going to do give myself a slightly wider base, and I'll just extend the centre line. Doesn't seem to know how to draw the line correctly. There we go, and we'll have another go. So guys, if you just tuned in, thank you very much for watching. This is a comparison stream between the X-Plane 12 and Microsoft Flight Simulator's respective best 737s, the ZIBO mod and PMDG, and we've done the engine failure after takeoff drill. We first did it in the ZIBO mod and X-Plane 12, we're now doing it in the PMDG 737. If you're more interested in the checks and procedures, I did that in full on the first one. We're just doing the handling exercises for this one. At this stage, comparing between the two, they are so good, and I mean that genuinely. I'm worked with ZIBO for many years, providing input there, but the PMDG is excellent. They are both excellent at replicating single engine. You've got to remember, these are entertainment products. One's free, one's 50, 60 quid. Yeah, if you were to put money into the perspective, you know, the fact that ZIBO's free and you get all that is a big win, but you're getting just as good a system with PMDG, in some areas better, in some areas the mod's slightly better than PMDG and the PMDG is slightly better than the mod, but both have done a really, really good job. Let's see what the landing goes like first.
Welcome.
Yeah, Yaroslav, yeah, leave that in the comment section. It's called I can't remember, it's a very old video, but I have very little capacity in streams like this to answer those sort of questions, but I'll do my best, guys, I'll do my best. So fuel, we're feeding from the right still, so they're almost balanced, and I just want to go flap 1 now, match speed. Fuel burn is exactly the same as the mod. We go straight onto an intercept heading now. I want to engage with the automation just to see how the aircraft handles. So it is doing 25 degrees now and heading select. That's good. Flap 5. Set view 15. 158. Verify set. Reset pressurization panel. I don't need to do anything. It's all configured as I need it. Let's just see how it operates the swing level. But the drag is really nice with the flaps. Both, they're both great. Really, it's tight. It's just elements of handling and takeoff I don't like, and landing and this. So look at that. Turn right, turn right, turn right. You can do it, PMDG. The only thing is, it cannot fly single. My controls. On to the flight directors. There you go. I'll do it for you. The autopilot, it should be nailing it, single engine, even single engine like I'm doing. Look, it should be nailing those flight directors, nailing them. There, 2. Right. Have another go. I just want to see how it intercepts the localizer. So forelock armed, arm approach, adding a bit of thrust, maintain the flap 5 speed. Alright, so yeah, the autopilot cannot handle single engine like the PMDG, whereas the autopilot in the mod was far better. It's just not able to do turns, that's all. Auto throttle in disarm. Yeah, auto throttle has to be disarmed couplé, single engine in the 737. So let's just see how it handles the localizer. Where are we going? No, it can't do it. It cannot do it, guys. Look, it's turning left. So, dear PMDG, come on, look. Forelock capture, we're going this way. My controls, it cannot. Yeah, the autopilot is no good in the PMDG single engine. It just can't do it. 2 engines, no problem. 1 engine, no. Right, my controls. You guys wanted to see a hand flying approach for both sims, you'll get it. The trim, though. Right, I just want to demonstrate the trim issue here. Let me just get the thrust set for single engine. Right, I'm not going to make any input here on the controls, okay? And watch my trim here. See how it's going down? That is far too slow. I probably put in 2 units there. We would be doing 5,000 foot per minute rate of descent in this aircraft. The trim is it's nowhere near where it needs to be. It's nowhere near as effective. Right, that is yeah. Well, that's the PLI. It's actually not low at all. Right, glide slope capture. I cannot put the gear down using that. I need to have a play with that. Gear down, flap 15. The actual handling is very good. There, the PLIs are moving all over. The actual handling is really good single engine though. The inputs are making a representative of what I'd expect it to. It was just a few little quirky things with the PMDG. Right, glide slope capture. Missed approach attitude set. And we've already done the checklist. 7 mile final. Did we rebalance the fuel? I can't remember. Oh, we will do now. There we are. It's only 100 kilos difference. That's okay. Keep an eye on it. Yeah, I'm quite interested to know why they're differing. It could be just like in real life. They have different output pressures for the fuel pump, so you can get a difference, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the mods. You could argue that because I've been testing the mod for years, that I'm sort of perhaps biased towards the mod, but I like to give fair and accurate comparisons, and I think the mod just pips it. Just the handling is, you know, the big debate between the two sims, and one that seems to rile a lot of people, is the flight model and the handling. I have to actually say that the handling in the PMDG I am slightly preferring, and that is because X-Plane 11, the mod, requires still a lot more work on the flight model than X-Plane 12. The handling actually, hand flying, I'm preferring the PMDG minus the takeoff and landing. I hate takeoff. I don't hate it. It's just not as good as it is in X-Plane. Looking at automation, much better in the mod. Signal handling, it's been fine in a straight line, but turns the autopilot can't do it. And there's a few little quirky things on the go around, but this is a complex thing we're trying to do, a difficult thing, and comparing the two just pips it. We need an independent one. I mean, unfortunately, 737NG driver is affiliated with PMDG. If you could persuade him to perhaps fly the mod and give his comparison, you know, maybe he'd slightly prefer the PMDG. We need to get him to try the mod. But who else drives 737s at streams? I don't know. So we need to find one as well. But looking good. This is flying beautifully, really nicely. Pitch and power is exactly as I'd expect single engine. There we go. 500. Continue. Coming over the threshold. Looking good. Flight directors are looking perfect. Little fast. Keep it coming down. And very easy to float with flat 50. I've lost the minimums call. They've bugged out, so they're not working on the second approach. We should have got plus 100 check minimums.
50, 40, 30,
check.
20.
Very little flare needed. Flat 15. Yeah, not bad. Actually, it doesn't feel too bad at all. But it's just so, oh, rudder. Right, speed brakes up, reverses. Oh, I just don't like the feeling in this sim. There's way too much asymmetry. Way too much thrust asymmetry there with the reverses. There's nowhere near as much as that. Well, I've done hundreds of these in the level D sim, but it's really yawing. Really yawing. I'm having to use like almost full right rudder. Nowhere near as much rudder needed. Hardly any needed. Right, cancelling reverse. You can see, look, as soon as I cancel reverse, it shoots off to the right there. Right, cancel brakes, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Stansted. We made it. What's it doing? Hey? Look, right. Look, I'm just going to leave it on yoke cam. Right, I'm going to let go of the rudder. Look what it does. It's going on its own to the left. What's it doing? Oh dear, oh dear. Look, I'll do it again. It shouldn't do that. Stow the close the thrusting. It's just turning left. Why is the tiller turning left on its own single engine? Is it stuck? Don't tell me it's attached to the rudder trim. Hold on, let me just reset the rudder trim to 0, see what happens. That's weird. That shouldn't happen. I'm curious why they've modelled the nose tiller. I'll have a look here. I don't know if it could be this yet. We just reset that to 0. Oh, it's still turning left. The tiller is stuck slightly left, turning. Oh, there we go. Straightened up now. It's straightened up completely on its own. That's better. I wonder if it had anything to do with the rudder trim. Let me just put the rudder trim in. I'm curious. I don't know, but that was a bit weird. It was sort of one engine only tending to turn, not in a 737. You know, you can easily disrupt that. I wonder if it's connected to that. Let's just see what happens. Yes, okay. It would seem PMDG have modelled, connected the rudder trim to the tiller. That is not very realistic. Well, let's see. Let me just go the other way. Let's see if I can turn the plane using the rudder trim. The rudder trim has no input at all on the tiller. Yes, it would appear to be turning right. Ah, okay. So big bug. You can control. You can taxi the aeroplane, ladies and gentlemen, using rudder trim. As I can now demonstrate. If I now turn left... Oh, unless... I'm going to try this in the 737. Look! I'm taxiing using rudder trim! That is a bug and a half. Well, can someone post that on the forums on my behalf? I'm not allowed to post there. I've got to state my real name. Right, okay, that's... that is not realistic. Okay, that's a cool discovery. Right, let's bring it to a stop. Oh dear. And set the parking brake. We'll call that a day. Have I left it on the grass? No, I'm not on the grass. Professional as ever. Right, that's the end of the stream. I honestly, I swear to you, I've only just found that out now. Well, there you go. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, hopefully that is something they can fix in the future, because that is not how it works. Anyway, let's now debrief the two approaches there. So yeah, really impressed by both of them. I know we just discovered a bit of a critical issue with the PMDG 737. So that's a Microsoft Flight Sim setting. Oh really? What setting? If you could point me in the right direction. But no, rudder trim does not control nose wheel tiller. Yeah, but to be fair to PMDG, I'm really impressed with it. It actually did far better than I was expecting. The handling, general handling, was really good in many ways. I actually preferred it to the mod, just in the sim. Like, I think flying around, hand flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator has improved quite a bit in the last few months. And actually, hand flying around here, I don't know, the PMDG just feels really nice. I don't like it in takeoff and landing though. That landing wasn't too bad actually. The reverse thrust asymmetry was a little bit too pronounced. Single engine reverse thrust is a little bit of yaw, but it's barely noticeable when you're on the landing roll, because the rudder's quite effective at higher speeds. It's really close between the two. The mod, looking back there, I mean, it feels like ages ago now. The handling was pretty good. The go around was very buggy. The flight directors, especially, but the handling was pretty good. The dynamics of it as well. It completely ignored the hold. The FMC, I think, in the PMDG is working far better as well. Seemed to handle the recalculating the approach really nicely when we put it back in, whereas the mod completely bugged out. Didn't know what it was doing. I think the go-around is slightly better in the PMDG as well. Well, I say slightly better, much better. If I remember rightly, the only issue really on that go-around was after we bugged up, the flight director didn't really command a level segment. It just continued the climb as if it was two engines. That was really the main issue. Oh, it is so close. I honestly, I think, as I say with all of the streams, it does boil down to the fact, what simulator do you prefer and what gives you everything as a package. Engine failures aside, you're going to get more out of Microsoft Flight Simulator if you're an average simmer. You know, I've been flying the 737 for 12 years. the mod still needs a considerable amount of work. So as of today, I think the PMDG is get slightly more out of it than you do in the mod. The mod still needs a lot of work, but when we're doing the single engine exercises just now, overall I think the mod was better than the PMDG. With regards to the whole picture, for example, the autopilot in single engine cannot do anything in the PMDG 737. It can, it just can't turn. It just can't seem to be able to deal with the turns. But yeah, it's. I think that's a fair analysis. You know, I've been working, as I've said several times today, with ZIBO and the team. And don't forget the ZIBO mod with several 737 pilots that input stuff, including an ex-74 pilot, 72 pilot's flown everything. So he knows what he's talking about and what he's doing. So you know, the mod is excellent. The PMDG is also very, very good. And taking into account Microsoft Flight Simulator, the visuals, you can sort of set aside the handling aspects and enjoy that more. And I find it very stable sim. You know me, I don't like to be controversial, cause any controversy at all. I'm a very level-headed individual. I'm very positive. I hate giving negative feedback. I always provide constructive criticism. And that's the way I always like to be. So yeah, enjoy both sims, enjoy both aircraft. That's all I can state. I'm no doubt will trigger some debates in the comments section as well. I'll answer them respectively and give you my input. But you just need to just to enjoy your simulator. They're both amazing sims, and I will continue using both. And I say that every time there's any debate or argument in chat between the two. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Sorry there's no replays. I forgot to activate them. Well done to both the devs behind the respective aircraft. They did both very well for what is quite a complex simulation, single engine. So I'd recommend both of them as ever. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it. It helps out the channel a lot as well. If you want to stay up to date with content like this, don't forget to subscribe as well. Thank you to anyone that donated as well. And thank you to all the members for the continued support. Next live on Saturday, maybe something before, but I'm doing Cross the Pond. More information to follow in social media feeds and on the actual YouTube video too. Guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.